Hey, it's Casey Cole Corbin with the Teachers of Fluid Art page, and today we have a really great live that will start in about 4 or 5 minutes with Gretchen Wheeler. And so I'll just get it started here and we'll get lined up, and then you can tune back in at 11. So I think that's about 3 or 4 minutes away. Thanks. I feel like I should have some music playing in the background, like Jeopardy or something like that. But instead I'm going to reboot my computer. And there she is. Hey, there she is.
Hi, Casey.
Hey, we have a couple minutes before other people join us, but you know how our technology has been, so I wanted to make sure that we were up and running. How's your day
We
been?
did okay. Good.
Good.
Really good. How about you?
Well, I just got notice about a half an hour ago from our realtor that they want to show the house tonight at 5:30, and so as soon as I'm done with you, I'm hitting the road, gonna go see clients all afternoon. I was scheduled to be home about that time, and so was my wife and kids. So it's kind of like the worst day and the worst time. So I've been running around like a crazy person, tidying up and stuff, you know, to show the house. I'm not going to worry about my studio. I actually have a funny sign on the door that says, warning, what does it say? Active artist. Art is ugly before it's beautiful. So
That's smart.
yeah, so if somebody walks in the room, they go, wow. But hopefully they'll be able to see the potential as a bedroom for them. So
That was the worst. When we had our house for sale, that was the hardest part, was trying to keep it clean and keep it organized. And it's awful, especially with kids.
it really is. It really is. And our roles have kind of reversed a little bit. My wife has we're kind of both in a lot of ways late bloomers, and so she's just got her bachelor's degree. You know, we waited till the kids were old enough, and now she's wants to be a teacher, and so she got a job teaching and just started 2 days ago. And it's actually in the town that we're moving to, and it's a 45-minute drive, and so it's long days. They leave the house about 6:15, and they've been getting home about 6 o'clock. So it's been, you know, I think after they work out, you know, some things there, it'll be a little bit sooner than that. But other than that, the roles are reversed, and I'm Mr. Mom. So I'm at home. I had a sick kid with me yesterday, and I'm kind of loving it, really. I've always been the person who's, you know, been out, you know, working. So our roles have reversed, and it's cool. I like it.
That's nice. Yeah. And like I was saying last night, enjoy it while you can, because it goes so fast.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So last time we sold a house, it was my wife, Mary, who was running around the place, you know, a few minutes after the realtor called, but now it's me. So if I'm sweating and perspiring, forgive me.
It'll work out. If it was meant to be, it'll work out.
Agreed. Yeah. We live in a weird town. We live in Nashville, Georgia, which I always joke is, you know, it's not the cool one. You know, it's population 4,000. And so,
Yep.
you know, and houses aren't moving that quickly, but I always say we only need one buyer. So
Yeah.
maybe this is
That's
it.
That's it. Fingers crossed for you.
That's right. That's right. And of course, everything happens at the same time. So my computer decided to need to be rebooted. So it's doing that now. But I think that we're right on time now. So I welcome anybody who is just joining us. Gretchen and I have just been chit-chatting to give you time to come on to this live. The replay will also be available on this page, and then I'll also create a YouTube video, and I'll share that with Gretchen if she wants to share it in her own groups, and make that available to people as well. And so we'll just get started. Gretchen, thank you so much for being here on the teachers group. And so the purpose of this group, as you know, is to help people achieve what you have achieved. And so you've been doing this for quite a while, and I want to hear how you got started here in just a second. But I want to challenge all of the viewers, whether you're watching live or if you're watching on a replay or even watching on the YouTube link later, is that Gretchen is going to have several things that it's like she's going to spread out a buffet in front of you, and there's going to be some things like if you don't like croutons when you go to the salad bar, you skip that, and so there's some things that aren't going to apply to you. But there's going to be some great nuggets for you to consider, and I want you to remember that, like according to the definition of insanity, if things don't change, then things don't change. We have to change our mindset, and we have to change our approach if we want different outcomes. And so if you want to have a successful teaching business, and your aspirations may not be as big as Gretchen's, and she's achieved a lot, and she's going to talk about that. She has several employees, and she's really, really grown it in a wonderful professional way. And maybe your aspirations are not quite that big, but there's some things that you can pick up from Gretchen today that I know that are going to be, if you can just take a couple nuggets and apply those, then I know that that's really going to enhance your teaching business. So Gretchen, if you will, introduce yourself to the group. A lot of people don't know who you are or know about your business and your background, so please share with us.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Casey, because this is awesome. Casey and I have known each other for a while. I'm not even sure how. I think through your group probably. And I really appreciate it. I love the groups that he has. It's so cool with fluid art in the community to see different people and get different ideas. And I love seeing all the new people starting out and wanting to teach others. So that's really cool.
It is cool.
My story is a little bit different, and I told Casey when he asked me about interviewing, and I said, well, one thing I want to make sure you know is that I'm not a teacher. I kind of am a little bit, but I own a business. I own the studio. We've had it for 5 years. It's in Pennsylvania in a little town called Erie, and we are basically a wine and paint canvas studio. That's how we started about 5 years ago, and we do a lot of the 2-hour classes where people have their cocktails and drink, and it's basically acrylic painting. So we started out, and I had no idea it was going to be such a crazy popular business as it was.
Wow.
When we started, I thought it would be fun. At the time, I owned a pottery. And I had seen the canvas painting classes at different places, other than around here. No one had done anything like that around here. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to get a group of people together and paint in a bar? And so I kind of threw something together really quick and put it up on our website we created really quick. And within 24 hours, we had sold 40 seats.
Wow. Wow.
At $35 a piece. And I'm like, we could be onto something here. So we hit it at a really good time. But I think, looking back, it was a really good time for us, but I think now it's a really good time for people because of the industry that I'm in and what I'm doing with the canvas painting. I think that has created a lot of opportunity for other arts and for other people to do traveling arts and to do mobile studios. And I think people are used to and like the idea of being able to do art at different places. So I think it's a great time for fluid art people, for any kind of artists that are teaching and traveling. So I think it's really a cool thing.
That's really awesome. One of the things that there's a delay between us, and so we're going to try real hard not to talk over each other, but because that's always awkward. But one of the reasons why, when you said, well, Casey, I'm not really that much of an artist. You are. I've seen your art. You do great art, but is because of that perspective. We have a lot of people in the group that are artists, and they're trying to make a business out of it, and some of their skills are not translating well, or they don't really know how to do that. You came in from the opposite angle, and you're a business person. You've had successful businesses before. You stumbled on this trend at the time, right? And now this new trend that we're in, and are able to capitalize on that. And your mindset is the mindset that the majority of the people in this group need to adopt. They need to see that. And so I'm really thrilled that's not your area of expertise. Your area of expertise is the more business side. So we're all just ready to glean as much from you as we possibly can. So that's awesome. So that's your background with teaching. And so you, like me, my fluid art workshop business is entirely mobile. And so I do not have a studio like you do. I might want to one day, right? You know, my paradigm's working really good for me, you know, right now. But you started off mobile, going to other places, and then you have transitioned. So can you, and maybe in a sense for the starting person who has the basics down, you know, they know how to create a mix, they know how to swipe, they know how to flip cup, and honestly, it's all you need. That's what people are looking for out there. And so if you can go there and teach that, then you can teach anything. Then you can teach the string pull, and you can teach the waterfall, and you can teach all the other colander, you know, pours. That's something that you can just add. But once you have those basics and you know how to do those, you're ready. You can go and you can teach somebody else, and you can start small. How would you advise somebody? Would you advise them to go out and rent a studio right now, or what would you think are the starting steps?
Well, one other thing I should clarify too, when I said that I'm not an artist, I'm not, when I started the business, I am not a teacher. We have 8 teachers that work for us and that teach classes for us, but I'm not one of them. So I do want to clarify that. I've always been crafty. I've always been, you know, I love to take the classes with the teachers that teach for us, and I've learned a lot. I have done some mixed media and I've done some small classes, so I am kind of a teacher. But when I started this business, like you said, I was a business owner, and I was lucky to have a lot of really talented friends. So I have friends that teach for us. As far as going out and being mobile, I have learned so much about both ways. I really am glad that we were able to be mobile at first. And when I came up with the idea and said, I want to do cocktails in color, and my husband said, okay, have fun. And after that first event, when it sold out that quickly and we got so busy, it was insane. It was wonderful. And it was the days when Facebook, you could post an event and people would actually see it and people would sign up. And you remember those? I don't know if you remember them, but it was awesome.
Gone, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But so my husband pretty quickly got on board, and we're business owners together, so we do everything together. And we were probably going out at our busiest time. We probably went out probably 5 nights a week. We were doing events out at different bars and restaurants,
Wow.
and which was great. It was awesome. But at the same time, we had more demand for that. So we would actually, like on the weekends, what we ran into, and you guys might see if you're out doing events, is a lot of places do not want to have you there on the weekends because they're busy. You know, in our town, there's only so many bars, and that's when they get their traffic coming in the door. So for us to take up a couple hours and have a class there, they would say you can come Monday night, but you can't come on the weekends. So for us, we had such a big demand that we wanted to capitalize on it. And we said, you know, I think we need to have a studio. So when I started, I had no interest in having a studio. And I've told you before, Casey, I don't necessarily recommend it. I think for us and for what we're doing and as busy as we are, it's great. And honestly, I'm so lazy now. I hate going out. I hate having to drag everything out and pack everything. But
that is a chore, I will tell you. I'm very proud of myself. Yeah. I used to pack 5 of those big storage containers, you know, in my car, and then, you know, load up, and I'd always need a cart, you know, to get into the art centers and stuff that I teach in. And I've scaled it down to 3. I'm real proud of myself, but it still is a lot of work, you know, to move things back and forth. So I do envy the idea of having a studio one day. I don't know that I'll ever stop traveling, because, for example, next Saturday, I'm teaching at an art center on St. Simon's Island, and so that's great. I'm going to be taking my family, and it's a vacation opportunity, and it's tax deductible, and so there's lots of opportunities. It's probably going to fit better into our lifestyle, where we're at right now. So yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing that we do notice, which is important to mention, is that when we're in our studio and we're doing our events, I'll post pictures on Facebook and I'll promote it, but nobody else is promoting it for me. Mm-hmm. Where when you're going out to other venues, hopefully if they're doing their job, they're promoting for you as well. Yeah. And then also, if you're out at a public bar or public restaurant, there's people coming and going that are seeing you. So even if they're not at that event, they're going to be like, what's going on? This is great. So I do have to really pay attention to my marketing even more, because I am missing out on that from not being out.
Yeah, that's an important thing too. I remember there was Amanda Haxton that I've introduced you to here locally, and hopefully she's watching this. I actually, before we even met, I saw that she was doing a paint and sip at the Mellow Mushroom in Valdosta, Georgia, and I was having dinner with my brother, and so I just said, let's go here. And so we were just like lurking in the corner watching everything go on. But as you say that, that's right, because there was no way for anybody to come into that restaurant. I think it was a Thursday night, and not see what was going on over there and not be curious about that. And so that
Yeah.
has to be a good marketing aspect too.
Definitely. Yeah. And that you really need to capitalize on. If you are doing events out, you need to have a sign, you need to have flyers. I even had like, I would be, since I wasn't teaching, I would have someone teaching at the event, but then I would walk around and as people were saying, oh, what's going on? I would hand out a flyer or introduce
Wow.
myself. And so, yeah, I mean, you can book private events off of that really nicely too.
Wow.
So.
And how does that work? What do private events look like?
With us, we do a lot of private events. We have, I don't know if you can see, and I might, if you want, I can show you around the studio a little bit later, but we have, our studio is really big. We have probably 300 to 400 paintings that the girls have done over the years.
Wow.
So when people come in, we have a lot, yeah. When people come into the studio, they see all these paintings that I have on the walls and they'll say, oh, I really want to paint that flamingo. And we've done it 10 times. And we're like, I don't know if we're gonna have time to paint it again, but we would love to do private events. So we have a lot of people that book private events. You have to have 10 people or more. Our studio holds up to 50 people. So
Wow.
we've done some really big events.
Wow.
Yeah, and we do a lot of fundraisers. So, and we've done private fundraisers too. So that's another way. And then they can choose whatever painting, whatever artist they want to have. So
That's neat. How
yeah,
many
we
artists do you have working for you?
We have 8.
Wow, that's great. And how did you acquire these artists? Because I know that one of the problems that some of us are facing, you know, this is such a new trend. You know, the pouring art is really only about a year old, you know, in its spike. Well, I don't think we spiked yet. It continues to go up. But is I find myself now just not wanting to be away from my family again on another Saturday. So I limit my Saturdays, how many of them I'm going to do that. But the idea of multiplying my efforts is a, you know, OPM, other people's time, other people's money, other people's energy, you know, using other people, such as hiring an artist. How do you even begin to find somebody like that? You know, that's something I haven't done yet, but I'd really love your insight. Maybe some other people would too.
Yeah. One cool thing about it, and I've found I'm really fortunate because pretty much everyone that works for us was one of my friends to begin with. Believe it or not, I have super creative, talented friends. But the thing that's really cool, and I notice it, and I'm sure you do because of the groups you're in, and artists are just, we're such creative, friendly, nice people for the most part, that, and I have people all the time that message me on Facebook, that send me an email and say, you know, I love what you do. I would love to teach with you too.
Wow. So they approach you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'm so, when we started, most of the girls that work for us still work for me. And like I said, they were my friends. So in the beginning, most of them didn't have any teaching experience. They were just really talented artists. So we've grown together. We now know how to handle people that are almost drunk, passed out painting. I mean, we have had stories to tell, but you know, it's hard to teach people. In any frame, it's hard to get them to understand what you're trying to get across. And my girls are so good at that now that I tend to not, you know, I'm keeping them as long as I can. So I have not recruited anybody. But again, I think you're going to mesh with people. And I think if you were to put feelers out and say you're looking for someone, you would immediately get, because people love to share. I think people really want to help and teach other people.
Yeah, there's a strong, there's a university in our area. As a matter of fact, I'm teaching at the continuing education department for 4 months in the fall. And I'm hoping that that might be an opportunity to be able to connect with some students that are, you know, art students, and maybe they would be, I've met a few and some that I thought, I wonder if I could, you know, at least have them do this part of the class for me, or, you know, I could show up late and not have to get up so earlier. They could do the fundamental part and we could do the fun part in the afternoon maybe. But
yeah.
So I've thought about art students, but I think that what you're suggesting is a lot better. Just people, and I mean, actually thinking about, as you're speaking, a couple people that have attended my classes in the past that really just showed an interest and an insight, you know, into it. And you could tell that they were fascinated by it. That I might even call and approach and say, would you like to do some teaching, you know, with me? So that's awesome.
Yes. And I think in some way, and the one thing that I've learned more than anything is that you're not, to teach, you don't necessarily have to be an amazing artist.
Yeah.
You know, it certainly helps, but it's how to get it across to people. You know, you really have to know how to help people and how to explain things. And so I think that some artists almost have a hard time teaching with some of the paintings that we do and more of the fine art type thing. I think it's almost hard for them to dumb it down enough for people to understand.
What they know
You know, I think that's really
instinctually,
important.
it's hard to translate that. And I think there's some truth to that old expression that says, you know, those who can't teach, you know, those are two
Yeah.
different skill sets. And so we either have to staff to our weakness, like you've done, or we have to grow in an area and, you know, dumb it down or say, you know, these are basic shapes, and you know, you have to do the, you know, you apply it in a way that's reachable to our students.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. So if you could go back in time to when you started, is there any things that you would do different that might, for the listener to be able to glean from, since we're kind of on the beginning end, you know, of it? Is there anything, any general or specific advice that you have for us other than the really good things you've already said?
Thank you. One of the things that, and I had said to you that I think is so important no matter what your business is that you need to come up with what you want to do and then you need to stick with it. Which I did very well, but it was hard for me. And I've had, since I was 21, I've always owned businesses. And I was trying to think if I was wrong. I think I've only worked for about 6 months for somebody else.
Wow.
And I know, and I tried so hard, and it was a marketing position and I really enjoyed it, but get up and be at the same place every day at the same time, I couldn't do it. I know that sounds crazy, but I think a lot of us understand that. You know, we entrepreneurs, that's what we like to do, what we want to do. So
it's funny you said it like that, because you know Matt Tommy's going to be in the other group on the interview this time next week, and one of the things I've heard him say is that, you know, he had the same thing. You know, he went to work for someone whenever his business closed, you know, in Atlanta, and he said, and these people expect you to be there from 9 to and stay to 5.
yes,
it's,
it's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my original, when I first got out of high school, I wanted to be a hairstylist, so that I owned a hair salon that my husband and I had for 15 years. So that's just what I did, and I came and went and had my own schedule. And so when we started the painting business and my other businesses, I have always said, you know, I want to be able to do it the way I want to do it. And it's hard to stick with that. You know, we've had a lot of times that people will say, you know, and we're called Cocktails in Color. Our main thing is having a good time, having a couple drinks. We get people that want to do a fundraiser and they'll say, well, it's for such and such organization. So we want it to be, you know, people aren't able to have alcohol. And I understand what they're saying, but for our business and who we are, we couldn't promote, and that's what we do. I mean, we're not telling you have to drink, but it's a BYOB studio, and if people want to BYOB, they're going to be able to. And for our business, we have to stay consistent with that.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of times that you'll tell people no. If you're going out and if you're doing things at venues, the venues a lot of times want to take over and tell you what you can and can't do, which to a point is good. You know, obviously they have things that they want to keep and make sure that they have their floors stay clean and, you know, you don't get paint on things and stuff like that. But when they start telling you, you know, what you're going to charge or what kind of painting you're going to do, it really reflects on your business. So you have to remember it's your business. You have to be consistent and keep doing the same thing that you're doing. And that's hard. It's hard to say, no, we're going to do it the way that I want to do it.
That is really good, and I hope everybody pays attention to that. And something that I developed a little bit late in my game was an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, in which I send it to, because I'm always going to new venues, right? I'm always like the island that I mentioned earlier. And so one of the things in our negotiation that really helped a lot is in our early communication, I had emailed them my MOU. And the MOU, and there's a copy of it in the files here on this group, and so you can take it and adapt it. Don't use mine, you know, because it won't fit. You know, it's got to be a good fit for yours. But, you know, alter it, change it. But it communicated some things and it set up some things, because they were one that I've had probably the most negotiation back and forth with all the different venues. For example, they said, we don't do a 70-30 split where you keep 70 and we keep 30. We do a 60-40, right? And we want you to do this, you know, and that, and this and that, you know, and stuff. And so some of the things were negotiable, right? Weren't deal breakers for me. But the one thing that came down to it, which was a deal breaker for me, was I said, I'll do the 70-40 split as long as you honor my supply fee, and which is $30. And so in that case, I think I ran the math on one of the posts here, but, you know, in that one, because there's additional expenses, travel, hotel, all that stuff, I'm charging $150 for people to be able to attend that. And so it goes down by $30, and now we're doing the 70 split on 110. And I'm actually profiting more than if we did a 30/60. So that's an example of setting that MOU sets an expectation up front. It also communicates early on that you are a professional and that
Right.
you aren't somebody who's going to be walked on, or you're not going to be too passive, and you do have to, in all negotiation, you try to go for a win-win scenario. They're going to go for a win-lose, and sometimes we'll be tempted to go for a win, a lose-win. We want them to lose and us to win. But the win-win is much better, but no deal is a perfectly good option where you just have to say, I'm sorry that we can't, meet on terms. Just know that I'm available in the future if you're able to see, if you're able to meet me on this point again, and walk away.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think it really is. A lot of times the business owners and the venue owners, they haven't done this before, so it's new for them. So you kind of have to set the precedent of what you do. And then, like you said, of course, negotiate depending on what it is. As long as you feel good with it, then you're good. And we've had people that have suggested things that I never would have thought of. And at first I would say, oh, no way. And then after I thought about it, I'm like, that's a really good idea. So you definitely learn going both ways. But I think in your gut, if something's right or wrong. And I think it's good to stick with that.
Yeah,
I did
that's super
notice,
good. I like that a lot.
yeah, Susan that's watching, I think it's Susan or Suzanne, she had a question that I wanted to mention because she brought up a good point. Another thing
Good.
that we've done, what she said, how do you handle no-shows and do you take a deposit? Money is really hard for a lot of us creatives to handle and to talk about. And I think a lot of times we end up getting the short end of the stick. And I think when, as a business, again, you have to remember that you are a business, even if it's a group of people getting together to paint, to have a good time. At the end of the day, you're not going to keep going if you're not making money on it. So what we do, and what I recommend for everybody to do, is set up on our website. We have a calendar. The only way that you can come to our events is if you sign up and pay ahead of time. You pay with a credit card. On our website, on our emails that go out, we have a 48-hour window. So you can book with us. 48 hours before the event, you can cancel and we'll give you a full refund, or we'll give you a credit to another class. But after that, you've lost out. Within 48 hours, if you don't cancel, then we are keeping your money. The way we put it, and we are in town, so we know a lot of people, and we have a lot of regular painters. So that's our policy, and that's the way we are with it. But we do get emails that people say, I got really sick this morning. I woke up and I was throwing up. I can't come tonight. We'll send them a credit for another class. We're not, we're nice about it. But at the same time, we have that policy set and we stick with it. Because, and like Susan said about no shows, that's not a problem for us. We do have no shows. But when they come to our studio, we have the canvas up, we have the paint ready, we have everything set up. It's a real inconvenience for us if they don't show up. So they are going to pay for that. We do sometimes, like I said, we will sometimes give them a credit depending on what the case is. But we started that right from the beginning. We've always had that policy. We do sometimes take walk-ins if someone were to walk in and say, here I am, here's my money. Well, we're not going to turn them away, but we didn't plan on those people. So we need to know how many people we have coming to the event, and especially with the fluid art, because you have a lot of different things you need to get ready for people to have. So that's a huge recommendation I would say for everybody, is get your money up front.
I'm glad you said that. There's a recent post on here that talked about that. Do we get 50% in advance? What happened? Someone was posting about some trouble that they've had and some people that didn't show and didn't pay. And I love your policy. And the cool thing about the policy about the financials, or any other policy that you have in place, that maybe you communicate either through your MOU or your marketing, to the consumer level, is, you set your expectations here. You can always go, oh, I'll have mercy on you, you were sick. You can always do this, but you can never do this, right? And so you've got to set that up front. And so in my MOU with my venues, with my art centers that I work with, I state that, that there is a, if somebody cancels within 24 hours, consideration will be made for a credit for a future event, right? And that serves a couple purposes for me. One is that, it's me being kind, for if somebody has something come up. And then two is that it means the venue is going to have to host me for a future event. So it gives a, an open door, for that. But and it frequently happens is I have classes that sell out. Well, if I have, classes that sell out and somebody, there's a waiting list or people that wanted to attend, but they could not, and then some people no show, that's money right out of my pocket, right? That's
Exactly.
expense, not only the hassle of setting up unnecessarily or toting more canvases or whatever I'm doing, but it's also that literally cost me. That if they would have given me a larger notice perhaps, or, they, wouldn't have done that, then I would have been able to fill those seats. I literally had two people call. This was going through the venue because the education director was there and present and taking the class about a month ago. And they said two people that were supposed to show up today asked if, they can, come to a future thing. And I was like, they can, but they're not going to get a refund. They said, could you go ahead and sell those seats to someone else? And I'm like, we're starting in 20 minutes. Are you kidding? Right. And so, and people don't think like that, right? They don't think in a business sense that way. And so we have to educate them on what is proper, expectations. And you do that with your policies. That's really good.
Definitely. And it states right on our website, it states that we are like a concert or a sporting event. We are an event and we need to get ready. We need to be prepared. And, that's the way it is. And when they sign up, it's all on there and it's stated clearly. And we really haven't, we've had a couple people that maybe were not thrilled with it. But again, like you said, there's always exceptions. But for the most part, people understand that. I always say if you were going to Justin Timberlake, yeah, exactly. If you were going to a Justin Timberlake concert and you woke up that morning and you weren't feeling well, you're not going to call Justin up and say, hey, can I have my money back? He doesn't care. So and again, we don't have to be that strict, but you have to run it like a business.
Yeah. I'd let them scalp tickets though. They could sell it to somebody
else. Well, you also, you handle your money a little bit differently than I do, I think, as well, because does the venue collect the money?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's nice, in particular as people are starting. Maybe in a year I'll have a studio and I'll do things differently and I'll handle all that, and actually have with 22 Social, I have some means, in Facebook app, to be able to collect that at an extremely little, fee, so that can take place probably very similar to the way that you do it. But that's real nice, particularly as people are shoestringing this thing, and you don't want that. You don't have the time. You don't have the ability to hire some clerical staff that's going to answer the phone, every day, and handle payment and do all those things. Most of my venues have an automated service. So, and the one that I kind of use the most is just a little bit backward. And I've talked to the new director there about getting so that somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning can sign up for the class, right? Because if they're interested on the weekend and they want to do that, then they have to write themselves a note that at 9 o'clock Monday morning, they got to call the Arts Center and do that. And so many times that's going to slip by. And so I think they're starting to buy in on my persuasion to get an automated system going, because that's just the way that things work today. People need to be able to act and pay, right now. And so that's nice. They handle all that. I send them an invoice after the class that verifies the role and do all the math, and so that I keep a file for my accounts receivable. So I am expecting, that check usually within 30 days, and I, check that off. And so you do have to handle this like a business if it's going to work, for you got to watch those things. So that's great.
Sure.
You and I talked previously and kind of prepared a little bit, for this. What do you think are we talked about the phases of this business. So you have we keep talking about an early stage, which is probably meeting the needs of the majority of people that are watching this. And then there's kind of growth. There's like a launch stage, and then a growth stage, and then even a what's next stage. Could you speak into that?
Sure. We've had in the beginning, like I was talking about, we were so busy with our Canvas classes. And then I would say probably about 2 years ago, we started to slow down, not be as busy. Still full-time, still very busy, but we weren't selling out every event in 24 hours. And we started to look at some different opportunities. And what we started doing was offering some different things at the studio. And that's where we found fluid art. One of my artists had started doing fluid art on her own. She was in some of the groups and was just learning it on her own. And this was, I think, probably last summer, she started posting some pictures of her fluid art. And she also works with resin, and she's amazing. And she would post pictures on her personal page, and people were going crazy. And people were saying, you know, I need to do this. How do you do this? And so at the time, I didn't really know if anybody else was teaching it. You know, I know most of the chain places that are other, you know, wine and paint type places, they don't do anything like that. And so we really had to do some research. And I see in this group all the time, you know, it's a lot of how the logistics of the class, you know, how do you get the canvases home, or do you leave them there to dry? And so all of that comes into play. And so we started with that last year, and that had been, it's really been a nice surge for our business. We also are doing some of the mandala, like the dotting classes.
Yeah.
We've started with some wood door hangers. So we've kind of grown and changed as our needs have changed. And we've had people, we'll have people that'll come to 20 or 30 of our classes and love the canvas painting, but then with some of our new classes, like our dotting classes, for example, we've had people that have never painted with us, but they would come to a dotting class. So it was like their first coming with us. So I think it's good to think about other things and kind of opening your mind to other things. And even if you are just, you know, if you're concentrating on fluid art, have different techniques, like you were saying, you know, and that's fun and easy to do. You know, like the sink strainer, the colander is really popular right now, and try different things like that and offer different classes. For us coming up in the future, our next thing that we're really excited about is we're going to start offering online classes. We're going to do a membership program. Yeah, people will do monthly painting classes with us. So that'll start in September. And we're really excited. We've had where we are. Yes. Yeah. So we're going to start in September. It's going to be a monthly membership. So they'll pay a fee every month, and then they'll receive tutorials. We'll do 2 full painting tutorials, and then we'll do technique videos. So like our first one, for example, we have a fall painting coming up with trees and leaves. So there'll be a tutorial that's a short video on how to paint trees. And then you'll work into your way to see the full tutorial of the painting.
Wow, so these people will be taking this at home then, and using their own materials. And
exactly.
Be subscribing to, and do you mind sharing with us what the subscription fee will be?
It's going to be $27 a month.
Wow.
And what they get with that, we also will have a private Facebook community, and we're going to have a lot of fun, like challenges and different ideas. When someone does, like for example, when they do the tree painting practice, then we'll have them post their tree pictures, and everyone that posts their tree.
Oh, you froze up.
Sorry. Phone ringing.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
So
there'll be more of an interactive community then.
Yes.
That is smart.
Yeah, and then
that is very smart.
What we found is that, and again, 5 years ago when I started the business, I had no idea that people would have such a love for learning of art. And what we're finding is that they just want to learn more and more and more, and they can't always come to the studio, or they live sick and but they
broke up again. Another phone call?
Sorry.
That's all right. So say that again. So they live in other places, and so it's easier for, of course, your system will be accessible throughout the entire world.
Right, it will be, yeah.
Wow.
And we've had people have really enjoyed seeing our paintings, but maybe can't get to the studio or don't have time, and this way they can do it whenever they want it. The other thing that we've had a lot of, where we are, and with the business being Cocktails in Color, we cater to adults. But we have a lot of people whose kids want to paint, and this is a way that you can paint with a family. Yeah, you can get one membership and your whole family can paint with you. So I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for us as well. Yeah, we're really excited.
Yeah. obviously this is a brand new market, but now you're reaching entirely different people groups with it too. So
Exactly.
that's very exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. I love the way
Yes.
that you have scaled your program. You know, and even in our discussion here in these kind of three phases, if you will, you had this beginning, you worked really hard, you went into venues and you didn't, you know, shoestringed it, I bet, you know, you didn't have the studio cost, and then you were able to multiply your efforts and became scalable, and you know, where you hired additional artists to be able to do this, and you could have simultaneous events going on at the same time, either mobile or in your studio at that point. And now this next phase, this is infinitely scalable. If I'm
It
understanding you
is.
correctly, once you, this is going to be fully automated, and so it won't matter if you have 100 people in the program or if you have 100,000 people in the program. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
what we're doing is we're filming the girls. We have 3 artists that are consistently working with us for the membership. So we've been filming them,
Wow.
and we're going to do a painting tutorial, a video every month, but then we're also going to do a live one in our Facebook group so people can interact. So you can be watching the artist painting, and then you can be commenting and asking questions right along with the painting. So I think it's going to be really fun.
Okay, so the painting will be also be live on your Facebook?
One of them will. We'll
One of
do
them. Oh,
one
wow. Wow. Okay. Those are some
every month.
really great concepts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind me stealing all of your ideas.
No, still fun.
Uh, that is really great. That is brilliant. That is really, really brilliant. And again, I want to say for some people that might be watching this might be like, that is way above, you know, my aspirations. You know, I want to teach, you know, 6 people in my community, you know, at a time. And that is just fine. But one thing that I found, because Gretchen also is mentored by Stu McLaren, I believe his name is, correct me on his name if I have it wrong, but Stu, and there's some guru type coaches out there, and I've actually talked with some myself. You know, one of them was offering a $10,000 program, or there's $5,000 programs. I think Stu is $2,000, right? And
Right.
so these are, that you're paying, all this big money for, because they have these insights. And so part of, and if you ever listen to one of those infomercials, that comes up, and it's I don't really like a lot of salesy, kind of content, but it was, it's talking about really big, huge, and I think that turns off a lot of people. And I don't want us to do that here, because one thing that I found is that I have talked to some coaches that do the $10,000 programs, and I walked away with some immediately usable situations at my level, what I'm doing right now. And when I met with that guy that was trying to sell me on the $10,000 program, he gave me 2 pieces of advice that I implemented the next week and literally doubled my income, right? And so, but it's not, at the really exciting, millions of dollars range. It's at the kind of normal person range here. So I do want you to, you might not be at Gretchen's level, and you may not have any aspirations to do that. But that doesn't mean that some of the techniques or approaches or ideas that she's sharing with you aren't something that you can capitalize at where you're at right now. And who knows, maybe you'll grow to Gretchen's level, maybe beyond. That'd be good. All right. Well, that's wonderful. Would you talk about, mentoring, and talk about, I'll kind of preface it by, we met, we correspond, you're so friendly. And so we had kind of bantered back and forth and talked about things before this. And then you hooked up with Stu, and Stu gave you some advice to be able to start a group, and you contacted me, and I said, I'm in, right? And so I pay you a monthly
Right.
fee to be a part of your social media group. And I just want to tell everybody, it has been super worth it. She, and in some ways, it's kind of like I'm getting Stu's $2,000 worth of, thousands of dollars worth of stuff, but I don't need all that. Going through Gretchen as a filter, because she has a similar business to me, disseminating just the part that I need and can immediately use, and it has been awesome. I mean, she's given me the stuff. It's like, she's just given me the part of it that I need, and I can immediately apply. And so that has been wonderful. And so if you'll talk about the benefits between you getting a mentor, now you mentoring, and then I think you also have something new to offer the group too.
Yeah, that's really cool the way you describe that too. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
you
good
can use that.
to know I'm doing a good job. Yeah. The thing that I think too is that what, like you were saying, how you got a couple things from somebody and how you said in the beginning, even of our interview, you're going to get a couple nuggets from different people here and there. I think that's what we all do. Nobody knows everything. You know, I always say, and actually I had said when we in our kind of our pre-interview that, you know, all you need to do to be an expert is know a little bit more than the next person.
That's right.
And you need to find the person who's going to mentor you that is in a good place so that you can understand it. Because if someone is way over your head, you're not going to understand that anyway. So when I started with Stu McLaren, who we're talking about, he has a program called Tribe. And that is the first, I am not a big, I don't do courses. I don't spend money on a lot of that kind of thing, but something with Tribe just grabbed me and it was the right time. And it was $2,000. And before we even started, I already felt that I had gotten my money's worth because I met a group of girls that are all across the country, but they're also paint studio owners. And we have a private group and
Wow.
we are totally open with each other. We talk about money, we talk about marketing, we talk about new projects. And I mean, the $2,000, not even for the class, paid for having this support group that I have. So I definitely
Wow. And that
recommend
is
if
a
you are,
highly specific niche that you are in, and
yes,
that information and that
yes,
that highly specific niche is just perfect. I mean, and Stu, and
yes.
that when he became the center of the web, you know, the spoke of the wheel, he actually was able to pull from all these different relationships that you would have never been able to do on your own, unless there's some association that I don't
Oh,
know about, you know. But those things become
no.
valuable for that specific networking with the same mindset. Okay, that's very exciting.
Yes. Yes. And that really, you know, I think that's one of the huge benefits of coaching is that you do meet other people, you know, when you're in a group environment like that and when you're working on things together. And basically, it's a 6-week program that we took that takes you step by step through building a membership. And I could never have done it without the help. I've learned so much. So for me, it was totally worth it.
Wow.
Trying to talk Casey into signing up for Tribe next year. So hopefully we'll get him.
Maybe so,
But
maybe so. Good.
you never
Yeah. So
know.
and I would like everyone to consider, you know, being a part of what Gretchen's doing. You can, you know, if I'm correct, you don't always have your group open, but right now you have your group open for people to join. Is that correct? Could the listener
Yeah.
join?
What I'm doing when he's talking about the group, I have the painting studio, but my passion and the things that I really geek out on is marketing. I love Facebook. I love Facebook ads. Casey knows that's all I talk about is I'm constantly saying you need to post on Facebook, you need to do Facebook Lives. But and you can see when I talk, I get all excited about it. I love marketing. So when I started Tribe and started the program to build a membership for the painting studio, I also started my own private marketing group, which is what Casey's in. And it's really small. It's a very small group. They pay $10 a month. It's not about the money. For me, it was about me making sure that I showed up and for them to make sure they showed up. Anytime you pay any amount of money, it makes you more committed, hopefully, unless it's a gym
Yeah.
membership. But it makes you more committed and it makes you want to be a part of something. So that is a private group. And that's, if anybody was interested in that, that would be awesome. The things that we talk about are a little bit higher level. So if you're just starting a Facebook page, if you don't really know a whole lot about Facebook, it might be over your head. But of course, you know, we'd love to have more people in the group. The other group that I have is a free group. And what that is, it's open to anybody. And basically, it's kind of just people getting started. It's an accountability group, and that's what both of our groups are, which is kind of to keep us going and to remind us that we need to keep posting. And the free group, I have a lot of advice in it as far as how to build your followers up, how to get more people to see your posts, things that you can do for free, not necessarily having to pay for Facebook ads, although you can do Facebook ads for as little as $1 a day. So I think people should do them, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, Casey just posted a link to the free group, so anyone is welcome to join that. And then in the free group, there is also a pinned post. There's a video and it explains a little bit more about the private group. So yeah, check it out. And then people can always private message me if they have any questions too. Right now in the free group, I've been helping. I have one girl that does a painting. She does wood signs and she does painting parties. So I've been helping her with her Facebook, getting her business page a little bit more updated and getting some more followers. And we've been doing that in the group so people can see that. So it's kind of fun to watch that too.
It is, and as Gretchen continues, she's being mentored. This is kind of something new to her. It's kind of where she's going, I believe, in your life, and something that you're very passionate about. And so, to join, I immediately recognized it as I'm going to get a ridiculous deal. I mean, the $10 is nothing, nothing. I mean, honestly, if you would have told me $100, if you would have told me, a higher amount, I would have paid it too, because it's certainly paid off to be worth it. And some of it is just, we had a recent post in which I asked a question on one of my groups. I forget if it was the What's Selling or if it was the teachers group, and it got a lot of activity. It got like 50, I think it was just a generic one as far as how can we help you? What do you need? And someone's, about 30, 40 posts in there posted, well, Casey, when are you going to answer these questions? And I put on there and said, I'm not. This is not, come to Casey and I'm going to disseminate, information, down from the mountain. This is group process, right? And so there's a synergy that takes place. And, I've learned so much from the other people on Gretchen's group.
Yes.
I've learned from their example. I've participated. I've, tried to post things, that have been working well for me. I've asked questions and other people have answered them besides Gretchen. And the same experience that she had, in working with Stu and met all these other people and networked together, that's the same experience that I've had. And in a lot of ways, if you've been active on this group, you've already experienced that. There is the benefit in having people come on, like, Catherine has been posting some amazing, from her wealth of knowledge from teaching art for so many years, some great videos that have been so helpful. If you'll just watch those and take notes, on a little 8-minute video, you'll get so much from that. And so it's that's really exciting. And Gretchen, I just want to personally just thank you so much, because and if anybody has enjoyed, hopefully, the amount of posting and the material and the things that I put onto this group, you honestly have Gretchen to thank for that, because she's been the one that's been encouraging me and saying, post twice a day, post twice a day. Do Facebook Lives, do Facebook Lives. Yeah, it has the reach that originally Post did, and so, and it's really good because now we're connected. People, Stu, and probably people that he's connected with, stay on top of what the new changes in the Facebook algorithm mean to our marketing efforts, and so he's disseminating that to Gretchen. She's disseminating that to me. I'm finding ways to apply that. I didn't know that when Gretchen was starting to encourage me to do Facebook Lives, I thought those were for concerts and for kids and for, I always thought of that as like, something real, wild and, rocky and not for a 50-year-old. But, and she said, no, this it gets the reach and people get a notification, on my personal page. All my friends go, Casey's going live, and this blurb goes on there and they can click on that if they want to. And the groups, there's even some more advantages to doing lives. And I just discovered last night that you can do a live within an event. And so when you set your events for your next workshop that you're doing, you can go on there and do a live in that event. And I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that everybody that has liked that event gets a notification of you going live. And so there's some really powerful marketing tools all within Facebook, but it's kind of always changing. And so there's no way for one person to stay on top of that. And so you've got to stay plugged in to some other resources to know what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing with Facebook Live and with videos, and Facebook right now really likes videos and they like Facebook Live. So more people are going to see that whenever you do that. So they say that only about 10% or even less of your followers actually see your posts when you post them. So if you have a couple hundred people on your page, you're not getting a whole lot of people to see it. So anything you can do to get more people to see it. The Facebook Lives are great. The videos are great. It definitely, there's a lot behind Facebook now because they want you to pay for everything. So there's a lot of things you can do to get, well, their business like anyone else. So.
Yeah. Something tells me they were always leading towards this, but initially, you could post stuff and then hundreds of people would see it.
Yes.
And you got to take advantage of something while it's hot. One thing that has opened up the doors for me was I had a YouTube video go viral, had over 200,000 views. And I'm not sure why, but I think it was because of the way that it was feeding into Facebook at the time. Now it doesn't work like that at all. Is that people scrolling, that video would start animating, on that, and that counted as a view, and it's picked up by a YouTube algorithm that says, hey, this is hot. And so they started pushing it in their sidebar, and more people started watching it, and it was kind of artificially inflated, and it got all these views. And then that opened up some doors for me, like being sponsored by a paint company, and doing other doors opening as far as more subscriptions and higher, that now becomes, you reach a certain number and you're called a social media influencer by different organizations, and that opens up some doors for you. And those have worked for me, and I've tried to maximize those as much as I can. But that opportunity's gone. That I can't replicate that because everything has changed. And so you have to be aware of where the opportunity is in that moment. You have to strike while the iron's hot, or another mentor of mine says, you have to take advantage of the opportunity within the duration of the life of the opportunity, because the opportunity opens and closes, and if you act too slow, you ain't getting it. So that's great. What else you getting from your mentorship from Stu? Any other nuggets you'd like to share with us, maybe in closing?
I think one of the main things that I get from Stu is he's such a true person, and he really wants to do the best for everybody. And I think that comes across as far as what I want for my people and what you're going to want for your people, whether it's your customers, whether it's the people that work for you, if you have employees, you want to love on them and you really want to give them everything. And I think that comes back to you. Yeah, I think with your customers, and I think you have something special, and we all have something different special. Even if we're all teaching the same thing, we're all doing it different ways. And I think you can give that to your people. That's what they want, and they want more of it. And I think when you let yourself show through and who you are, and people are going to be attracted to that, and you just need to keep giving it to them and giving it to them and sharing it and enjoy it.
You're talking about the human connection, which cannot be like from a corporate identity. You can't get that from an organization. You get that from an individual, and that's awesome. It can be passed down, like a bit of Gretchen gets passed down into her artists that teach her classes, her philosophy and stuff, and that's awesome. But we, in this low touch, high tech life that we're in now, people are yearning for a high touch environment. May not mean physically touch, but to be present in the room with somebody who's teaching them has a certain value to them. And so that's something that we can offer them. And it's okay to be yourself. And one of the hardest things, because you mentioned to me before that one of your weaknesses and maybe a strength is your perfectionism. And for me, I've had a problem with perfectionism, that as a person who does therapy, with folks, as a counselor and as a coach, I had to do therapy on myself to do that. And so I had to get beyond, because that kind of perfectionistic stuff would paralyze me, and I would not be able to move until it was right. And so I had to adopt some different philosophies that I think is most noted by like Microsoft. They will launch an imperfect product, and then they will release 2.0, and then 2.3 and 2.4, as they perfect it after it gets into the marketplace. And that's the way that the world works now. And so you really could, honestly, I'm speaking to you, that you've never taught a class before, but you know how to do the mix, and you can got your viscosities right, and you know how to do the basics, right? You know how to do a swipe, you know how to do a flip cup, and therefore you can do everything else. And so like Gretchen said, to be an expert, you just need to know a little bit more than the next person, right? And so you could actually teach a class, and you could even decide right now to call a couple friends over and practice and do one, tomorrow afternoon, and just show them. You could just show, and they would ask you questions, and something inside of you goes, I know the answer to that question. How'd this happen? And now you have something that you can show and you can teach. someone else, and then you can grow that thing, and you can, maybe do some more volunteer work, and maybe do a fundraiser for the Cub Scouts or your church or something else, and where you can teach, and other people are benefited by it, and it's low pressure in that environment. People know that it's going to a cause, or that you're doing it for free, and so you can just feel free to experiment and try different things. And then you come up with a system, and of course this group can help you. And there's a lot of things in the file group and the file section of this group that can help you with your structure of how you structure your classes. But you really can start with something very small and grow it and take it to the next step. And you only have to know the basics now, and I bet you do. So, Gretchen, what else do you want to say to the group before we sign off here?
I did want to say a good point that you made is that I think those of us that are in the fluid art groups and the paint pouring groups, we're so immersed in it, and we see some of the most amazing work, which is wonderful. But a lot of people out in the real world don't know all of that. So you don't feel, and a lot of people don't even know what paint pouring is. So you don't have to feel like you have to be the most amazing, the biggest cells in the world, or you can't teach. It's really just sharing what you know with other people, and you're going to find people that enjoy that. So don't try to compare yourself to other people. I see that a lot in groups, that people seem to be down if their painting doesn't look just like someone else's, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
No, it does not, and that's some excellent points. Really, really good. Well, Gretchen, I want to thank you so much for being here today. It was really great. I've always enjoyed my interactions with you, and I appreciate you taking your time out today. And I hope that people go to at least your free group and check it out. And I would highly advise that you guys jump on her opportunity, where you pay monthly before she starts charging what it's worth, which she should probably do soon. I want to remind everybody that next Friday, there's, for some reason, something's going on with 11 o'clock on Friday. So we did I interviewed Sandra on the Wet Selling group, Sandra Lett, and that video is available on that group there. And she did an awesome job of talking about being a selling artist. And we've got Gretchen today. And then next Friday at 11 o'clock on the 17th, then Matt Tommy is going to talk about how to treat your art like a business, and that will be on the Wet Selling, and also more about mentorship there. And he offers a really great mentorship program too. And the Friday after that, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if this thing continues to go on. But Gretchen, thanks again for joining us. I hope you have a really great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.